Hello, everyone in Wakefield and everywhere else. It is Visual Radio again. We've had a little hiatus, but we're back. It is June 27th, 2019. It takes the brain cells a little while to kick in. My guest tonight, Rex Apollo, with his brand new book, How to Spark Your Own Golden Age, Tips for Success. Welcome, Mr. Apollo.
Well, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate you inviting me to come on. So my name is Rex Apollo, and I'm a writer, educator, and international man of mystery. This is my first book, and I'm really excited to share it with you tonight.
Well, it's the first week of summer. We've almost achieved 6 months, and so you've got this beautiful summer photo, kind of. Where'd the photo come from?
The photo's actually from Tamarindo, Costa Rica. So Tamarindo, Costa Rica is one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life. It's on the west coast of Costa Rica, on the Pacific Ocean, and it has the nicest sunrises and sunsets that I've ever seen in my life. And I actually took that photo walking on the beach.
It is really a stunning photo, and our audience can see it. It's mesmerizing. You've got the ocean, you've got the reflection, you've got the nice couple of clouds above the sun. It's a perfect photo. I love it. And the title, okay, How to Spark Your Own Golden Age, Tips for Success. Now, sparking a golden age, I think of the primo times of film, the primo times of music. There's certain perfect storms where things come together, and the music of the Rolling Stones, the 70s, it was just unbelievable. It was majestic. And then films, Gone with the Wind, certain films come and they're just beautiful. You're talking about personal golden age.
Yeah. So one of my personal beliefs is that not only can we have like civilizations have golden ages like ancient Greece, but I believe people can have golden ages. I believe that people can have times in their lives where they prosper and they do well, and they are happy. And this is just an idea that I came up with, and I really thought about this idea a lot, and I thought, I was very interested in the idea in how do you spark a golden age in your own life. And these are just some of my experiences and some things I came up with based on my experiences. And I really hope that my book can help people spark their own golden age, because I really think it's a wonderful thing for people to have the kinds of success and their happiness in their own lives. And, I'm a teacher, and I think that's very important for me. And so not only am I trying to, educate my students in my classes, but I'm also trying to do it through my book.
Our director, Paul Norman, is an international man of intrigue, too. But we'll interview him someday and get some histories. Your book is semi-biographical and semi-self-help, I'd say.
Yeah.
And so here's an offbeat question. How many countries do you think you've been to?
I have been to 20 different countries.
You knew the answer.
Yeah, I've actually thought about this and counted them all out one time. So I've been to a lot of countries in Europe. I've also been to Brazil, Costa Rica, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia as well. So I've been to a lot of places around the world.
I'm going to move away from the book just for a minute. So today's June 27th, 2019. In about 2 weeks, you'll be in Vietnam.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in getting some new ideas, in having a different type of experience. And so I've actually taken a new job in Hanoi, and I'm going to be moving to Hanoi. And I'm really excited, not just about, my new job or some of the new experiences that I'm going to have, but some of the new ideas that I'm going to come up with through moving to Hanoi. And I think it will be very interesting.
Now, you were in Vietnam before. Were you ever in Hanoi itself?
No, I've never been to Hanoi. I've been to Ho Chi Minh City and several other cities in South Vietnam and Central Vietnam, but I've never been to Hanoi, so it will be very interesting.
Scary part of my life was when I was, I guess, 18, I had to sign up for the draft. I did not want to go to Vietnam, and thanks to Richard Nixon, I did not go. But that was a different time. Now, North and South, they get along and people can traverse where they want.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of interesting because there's still some divisions between people from North Vietnam and South Vietnam. But in the school where I work, I've taught students from both North Vietnam and South Vietnam, and they seem to get along pretty well. And very excited about the opportunity to learn more about Hanoi and what it's like there.
Now, are you teaching them English?
Yeah, so I'm teaching them English. The school I just left, an international high school, I taught ESL, French and history, and in this new job in Vietnam, I'm going to be teaching just English.
How many dialects of the Vietnamese language are there, do you know?
I'm not sure on that. I'm just hoping that I can learn it and buy a sandwich. That's my basic goal.
The reason I asked the question was this. I'd like you to ask the school, if you can have permission, to have the class to learn English translate your book
Wow,
into Vietnamese.
That would be quite a project.
And if there's 2 or 3 dialects, just to be above board, you say, hey, look, I've written a book. In order to teach the English language, I'd like them to transcribe my book. Because then you would have, and then you could give them credit as translators.
Yeah, that would be an interesting project.
And then maybe the back cover, see, I got all these ideas. The back cover, you would then have a Vietnamese sun, and then the text would be over the sun, so you'd have the, Costa Rica, and then you could actually add an extra chapter of being on visual radio and then going to Vietnam. So I have all these great ideas. Now, I've reviewed the book, and my editor is in Chicago today. I don't know why. I don't know what that means, but hopefully he'll have published this soon on TMR Zoo, and that'll be fun. I really enjoyed it. I especially liked that you take the elements of your own life. You're brave enough to tell the world, this is what I do, this is how I live. And you're urging people to find their own niche.
Yeah, that's what I would say. And I actually revealed a lot about myself in this text, and I was kind of surprised by the degree, which a lot of the things that I revealed in this book. But what I heard someone say one time is that a good writer bleeds on the page, and I think you have to, in order to be a very effective writer, you really have to reveal a lot about yourself when you're writing.
That's a good point. I really enjoyed a chapter, and I think you're going to read it for us. Would you mind reading for us right now?
Sure. Which chapter would you like me to read?
The one we discussed.
Sure.
And we had a little discussion before the show, and I might take some photos while you're reading.
Sure. So this chapter is titled Yellowstone, and it's about an experience that I had in Madrid. Ours was perhaps the most unlikely of friendships. I met him in the late spring at a meeting of my language club in Madrid. One could almost certainly claim that he had an interesting background. Despite having spent the first 14 years of his life in Mexico, he spoke English with a perfect American accent, having resided in the States for many years. It was so obnoxiously American that it irritated the hell out of a posh British acquaintance of mine. He was in his mid-30s, yet one could say that his soul was younger. Despite having little formal education, Jose could speak with great depth on philosophy, history, and religion. By trade, he was a skilled construction worker. Whenever anyone called him, Jose always answered as Yellowstone. Yellowstone lived in Usera, a heavily immigrant district of Madrid. No self-respecting American or European expatriate would even consider going to such a downtrodden quarter of town. Yet, Yellowstone reveled in its character. His favorite joint was a Bolivian restaurant where hot dogs were often combined into rice dishes. All the waitresses and bartenders knew his name. He would often give rides to friends without legal papers, especially females. One day he invited my French friend Jean and I to watch the Euro Cup soccer championship at one of his favorite spots in Usera. The match featured Spain versus Germany. The Spanish national team had never won any significant international tournament. When the game resulted in Spanish victory, a wild euphoria broke over the city. Yellowstone came up with an ingenious yet utterly absurd idea. He was not inebriated in any kind of way, as he did not require substance of any kind to do something a little bit off the wall. He proposed driving his car from Usera to Plaza de Colón, where masses upon masses of people had gathered to watch the game on a giant screen. 4 of us, Yellowstone, his Bolivian girlfriend, Jean, and I, piled in the car. Yellowstone taped a Spanish flag and American flag to it. I never really could comprehend his reasons for breaking out the Yankee flag, for we were in the land of siestas and fiestas. Yellowstone was not the type of person who subscribed to reason. For him, it was all about emotion. However, our journey in the car quickly grounded to a halt because the city was so close to breaking into a riot. As we came to a roundabout, it became evident we were not going to reach Plaza de Colón. Hordes of Spaniards were howling joyfully while jumping up and down in the fountain which occupied the middle of the square. Scores of people approached the car and climbed on the roof. Revelers on both sides of the car began pushing it back and forth. This only made Yellowstone more excited as he basked in the pure joy of the sheer masses of people around us. It did not require big events for Yellowstone to enjoy life. He would often stand in the street corners of Usera and point out girls that he thought I should approach. Over my first summer, whose scorching heat challenged my sensitive northern skin, we frequented the public pool countless times. I introduced Yellowstone to my language partner, Maria. Whenever we gathered together, the 3 of us would begin with a toast by reciting the words for cheers in as many languages as possible. Rather than purchasing items for the pool cafe, Yellowstone would bring a large cooler and invited everyone to partake in both his food and drink. He enjoyed sharing with other people, and his goal above all was to enjoy himself to the fullest.
Fiesta, siesta, is this Yellowstone's golden age or yours?
It's my golden age, but I learned a lot from Yellowstone. Yellowstone was a very important friend of mine in Madrid, and one of the things that he really knew how to do was he knew how to enjoy himself to the fullest. He understood that, and I think not everybody does. I don't think everybody really understands how they can enjoy life to the fullest. I think a lot of times it's kind of something we cannot learn in school.
So we'll get back to Yellowstone in a second. Did you meet all sorts of friends in all 20 countries?
Yeah, I have friends throughout the world.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
And now with email, you're just an email away.
Yeah, I know.
Or Facebook or fascinating. Yeah. So Yellowstone lived life to the fullest. What was it about your experience in the Yellowstone period that was your golden age?
I think it was just what it was everything just seemingly went the way that I wanted it to go.
The cookie crumbled your way.
Yeah, the cookie crumbled my way. I felt a lot of enthusiasm, not only personally, but from those around me. I think I projected a very positive energy during this time, and I think being positive is very important. I think a lot of us aren't as positive as perhaps we need to be or we would like to be. So I think that's very important, to be positive in our lives, so that we can be successful.
Have you ever heard Rick Nelson's song, A Traveling Man?
Yeah, I think I've heard that.
Is that you? I mean, a girlfriend in every port. Brazil, Vietnam.
Mm,
I mean, I know too much about your life, but he's got a girl in every port, like Traveling Man. And that would make for good parties. Introduce everyone. Maybe if you haven't been to Russia, just, when the book sells millions of copies, just invite all the ex-girls right to Russia. And it's a new country. It's country number 21.
Country 21, yeah.
Here's the title of your next book, Country 21.
Country 21.
I mean, you could write a travel log, travel guide. There's so much you can do. I'm sorry to see you take off right away because the book just came out. And is this your first Access show?
Yeah, this is the first. This
right.
is my first Access show. This is only the second time in my life I've ever been on TV.
Oh, wow. Well, I just, there's many interviews to do, but this is great launching pad. WCAT is amazing. I want to thank the staff.
Yeah.
Everyone here, Barbara, Tom, Ryan, everyone is just amazing. And our director, Paul, he makes it comfortable
Yeah.
for me to do my thing. How many golden ages are in your book for you?
How many golden ages are in my book for me?
And do they go by country?
I would say really the golden age of my life was in Madrid, but I believe there are more golden ages ahead. And I would say I'm in a golden age of my life right now, and I'm really excited about going to Vietnam and having a new experience.
My only experience with Spain is Santander Bank. So we talked about this before. When Santander took over Sovereign, all of a sudden all the paintings were gone and all of the different things that Sovereign liked to have around. Isn't it interesting that Santander has a very cold kind of business-like look?
Yeah, I know I've actually taught in the corporate headquarters of Santander Bank, outside Madrid. And it has that same kind of feeling. It's this giant campus of buildings, and in this giant campus, they don't even have benches because they don't want people to take breaks. They just want people to work all the time.
Amazing. So the bank is big enough where you taught inside a bank?
Yeah, I taught inside the bank, inside their corporate headquarters.
How does that work?
How does that work? So
You're teaching the bankers?
Yeah, you teach the bankers.
Language?
Yeah.
I thought you had students coming in and
No.
So what do? Put you in a conference room?
Yeah, so you have a conference room, and you have a class, and then you have part of the major issue with teaching at the bank is that the wall is too thin, so you can hear the other teacher teach from the other wall, and so sometimes the other teachers didn't like the fact that my students really were having a good time, and their classes weren't quite as interesting, but it was an interesting experience, and I think I was very fortunate to have that experience.
Well, we're talking about your golden age, and it's in Madrid, and here you are teaching at the corporate headquarters of Santander. I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
Because who knew that the banks would support teaching English to the Spanish-speaking employees?
Yeah, well, basically business people across the world want to improve their English. I taught in a lot of other places as well. I used to teach politicians when the Popular Party controlled Madrid, because one of the language schools I taught for, they had the contract for the Comunidad de Madrid, the Madrid city government. So I didn't even know who these people were, and I showed up with a list of the students I had to teach, and one time I showed up and there was this guy on the list, and I'm like, I want to talk to this guy, I'm here to teach his class, and they were like, "You mean the boss?" And I'm like, "I don't know who he is. I have no idea who he is." They're like, "He's the boss."
Fascinating.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of crazy.
Now, how many students in a class?
So it really depended on, basically, sometimes I would teach one-on-one. Sometimes I would have like basically 5 to 15 students, depending on the class I taught.
And how do you feel they graduated your class? How do you feel comfortable that they went out there with a more polished English?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, a lot of it too depends on how much effort the student is willing to
course.
put in to make improvements.
So, over all these years, you've had all these different students from different countries. There must be so many different flavors in your head of the approach to teaching someone in one country, the reaction to students. Anyone stick out? And you don't have to say names, but was there any students that you found compelling in that they wanted to learn and that they were on the same wavelength, maybe?
I had a student that was from China that was very good. It was during a summer camp that I was in charge of. And basically, the students had to do 2 hours of ESL instruction a day, and then they had to write an academic research paper and do production of Mary Poppins all in 4 weeks. And we ended up choosing this particular student as Mary Poppins, and I think we were very fortunate to have her as Mary Poppins because she was very dynamic and she really was enthusiastic about the role.
Did they watch the movie?
Yeah, they did. It's kind of hard to get teenagers interested in a movie like that, but that's what the boss in China had decided we were going to do. So,
And was it dubbed or with subtitles?
I think we did it with subtitles.
This is a fascinating life you have. And now you're on the verge of a new fascinating phase of it. So what I like about How to Spark Your Own Golden Age is I mentioned to you Florence Scovel Shinn. She's an amazing New Age from 1925. What do they call it? There was the spiritual New Age. And even though it's 100 years old, she had thin books. Your book is a little thicker than Florence, but the charm is that you can pick up any chapter on a train and you can read and you can go anywhere from the book because you don't have to go start to finish.
Yeah, so my book isn't necessarily, you could potentially just start at any point in the book and you could pick any chapter and you could just read that chapter. And I've had a friend of mine read my book, I think, in 2 hours, and I think he enjoyed reading it.
People like quick because you know, a Beatles book is sometimes 400 or 500 pages, which a lot of publishers don't want to do that. The Beatles get that liberty because the more pages, the more it costs. And it has to be successful. You know, J.K. Rowling can write a lot of pages, but I think the norm is around 300, 350 maybe is pushing the envelope. Having 99 to 104 pages to me is a good way to get people reading because what I find is people go to the libraries now for the computers.
Oh, I know. Just as a teacher, trying to get my students to read anything is virtually impossible.
And newspapers are dwindling away because people are Kindle and
Yeah.
electronics, and I don't see where that's as good and comfortable for the eyes as reading a good old-fashioned book, touching the pages, smelling the ink and the print. There's something wonderful about books. Fahrenheit 451, Ray Harryhausen? No, Ray, I know this, it's just like it's Bluesheimer's, I'm 65. Ray Bradbury, thank you. Fahrenheit 451, did you see the movie?
No, I haven't.
Do you know what it's about?
No, I confess I don't.
Fahrenheit 451 is the degree at which paper burns.
Huh.
And they banned books in the society, so everyone had to learn a book. And so people were the books.
So kind of like oral tradition.
Yeah, put the camera on me, Paul. I'll do a little Gore Vidal, the late Gore Vidal. I am Myra Breckinridge, whom no man shall ever possess. Clad in only garter belt and one dress shield, I held off the entire elite of the Trobriand Islanders, a race who have no words for why or because. With a stone axe, I cut off the arms, the limbs, the bleep of their finest warriors, my beauty blinding them in the same way that Fay Ray reduced King Kong to a mere simian whimper when the key light is no further than 4 feet from the close shot. That's the first chapter of Myra Breckinridge.
Wow.
The novel being dead, there is no point in writing made-up stories. Look at the French who will not. Look at the Americans who cannot. Look at I who ought not, if only because I live totally outside of the usual human experience. You live outside of the usual human experience. That's part of the second chapter of Myra Breckinridge, but it's just like you got to get your students to memorize your book for part 2 of Fahrenheit 451. Rex, we're having fun here. Are you having fun on the show?
Yeah, it's interesting.
We go into, the subtitle is digression, and Paul goes nuts, and sometimes he'll throw plates at me to get me to stop digressing. See, he's doing it again. See that? They can't see it, but he's telling me. I knew that. I knew what that sign said. Tips for success. What do you want the reader to get out of this?
Well, I think what I would like is I would like the reader to be able to take something that they can apply to their own life. So there's nothing in there where I say you have to do this or you have to do that. So what I like to think of my book as is more suggestions. And I think even if you could take 1 or 2 of the things that I suggest in the book and apply those things to your life, I think it would really make people's lives more dynamic and more successful. And I really think it's important for people to think about what they can do differently, because I think we're all kind of considering this question, how do we make our own lives better? And if they can take 1 or 2 tips that I suggest within the book, then I think I've been successful in my mission.
Rex, you're an awesome guest. I'm only going to give people your Twitter if they want to contact you, at Spark Golden Age.
Yep, so at Spark Golden Age.
Because we're a nonprofit, so that's kind of all we do, is tell people that. I do want to say that our next show is going to be actually our director talking to me about our experience at the Encore Boston Resort. The Encore Boston Harbor is the actual official name. It's one of my new fun places to go, and Paul and I were there on Friday. I think it was June 21. And so we had a blast. I had a blast here tonight with you. We like to have fun on Visual Radio. And Visual Radio is visual_radio@yahoo.com. And I think we got a visual-radio.net or something. We'll figure that out. But Rex, good luck with the book.
Thank you, Joe.
Good luck in Vietnam. And we want to thank Paul Norman, Tom, Barbara, Ryan, the entire crew here at WCAT Wakefield. Thank you very much. Over and out.